How's it going? I'm doing pretty good. I hope y'all are. Well, I've been pretty busy. I got a lot of projects going on, and one of my next projects was going to require me to do some painting. And wouldn't you know it, of course, my compressor took crap on me. So I had to figure out what I was going to do about that. So kind of molded over, figured out what I was going to do, and I ended up picking up one of these Mcgraw 29-gallon air compressors from Harbor Freight. And I looked on YouTube to see if I could find any reviews on it. I really couldn't find anything on it. So I figured I'll go ahead and pick it up because you get a 90-day warranty on it. You can take it back if you don't like it and give you all a little bit of a review on it. And we'll see how this thing does. So let's get into it and I'll show you a little bit about it. All right, here's the compressor. Let's go through the specs real quick. Of course, it's a 29-gallon tank, 165 psi max. It's got a 1.8 electric motor on it that's 110, but you are going to need a 20 amp circuit. That's what they recommend, 20 amp circuit to run it. Now, it is 5.3 CFM at 90 psi, but it's also 6.3 CFM at 40 psi if you're running a tool or something that you don't have to run at 90 psi. Now, when I got this home, of course, it was in a box. The only things I had to do was bolt these wheels on, and there's some little rubber pads to go down here. So that's it. Not a big deal. So, of course, we got our electric motor, our compressor, and then here's the gauges and the regulator. So this is going to be your tank pressure, and this is going to be whatever you regulate the tool to, what's coming out of the compressor. And then over here, of course, the on-off switch with the blow-off, so it'll kill whenever it hits 165. And I'll take a look around here. Of course, it's belt-driven with pulleys, and it's got kind of a fan on this pulley, and it moves quite a bit of air. Definitely plenty to keep this thing cool, especially because it's probably going to be running a lot because it's a smaller air compressor, only being 5.3 CFM and whatnot. But then also down here, this is going to be your drain down here. Nice little valve for that. So that pretty much. Oh yeah, and it does have a digital hour meter on it. That's pretty nice. That way you know when you need to change the oil in the compressor, because it is an oil lubricated compressor, which is probably the only reason I actually forked out the money for this thing, because it was an actual oil lubed compressor. And you see right there, there's the little fill level on that. So when you get it, you'll have to put on these. I lied. You don't just have to put the tires and the little pads. You got to put these little air filters on, which they just screw on, and then you're going to have to fill it up with oil up to the fill line here, just up to the center of this little red dot here. And then you got to run it with the drain valve open for 30 minutes. And that makes it easy because I got an hour gauge on there. So when that says 0.5, you turn it off, close the valve, and then you can use the air compressor like regular. So far so good. That's about as far as we've got. And you can see I've got about almost an hour of runtime on it. I haven't really done a whole lot with it. Just kind of tested it out a little bit, but we're going to try to run a couple tests on it. We'll hook up some spray guns and some other tools to it, and we'll monitor the tank pressure and see how it does. All right. So first thing I want to do is hook the spray gun up to it and run air through it. Just wide open, run it. Just hold the trigger. Of course, I'm not going to be painting anything with it, but I just want to see what the air consumption of this gun is and how it affects the pressure in the tank. Now, this is a LVLP spray gun, which is a low volume, low pressure. And I've used this gun with a compressor that was rated at 9 CFM with no problems. Atomized the paint, laid it down smooth, does a good job. I've done it many times. So I'm not actually going to be painting anything in this video, but we'll see how it affects the tank pressure, things like that. It'll kind of give us an idea of what's going to happen. So let's get this thing hooked up and see what happens. Okay, so we've got the compressor's pumped up to 165. I got my regular set about 100 psi coming out. Of course, I have a regulator on my gun, and I've got that adjusted to about 30 psi. So now I'm just going to run it wide open, and we'll see kind of what the tank's doing, and if it can. Of course, it's probably going to run the whole time, but see if it can stay above that 30 psi. So here we go. Man, I'm surprised it hadn't kicked on yet. There she goes. Now, I'll tell you what, pretty happy with the results of that so far. Of course, I haven't sprayed any paint through it, but, I mean, it probably ran. I mean, I was spraying that gun for probably 30 seconds before the air compressor ever even kicked on. And it was holding, I don't know, 130, 135 PSI in the tank the whole time. So, I mean, I can't really complain about that. Now, granted, this is a low volume, low pressure gun, but, you know, I'm not a professional painter or anything, so this works just fine for me and everything I need to do here around the house or on any of my projects. So far, it's checking out pretty good. So let's try maybe a die grinder. Let's hook one of those up and see what we get with that. Okay, well, here we got just a cheap little right angle die grinder, and we'll get something out, do a little grinding on it, and we'll see how well this thing can stand up to this. Okay, so I grabbed this piece of square tubing right here, and it's got a little booger weld on the end and some paint on it, and we'll try to grind this weld down a little bit and grind this paint off and see how this thing does on this compressor. So let's get going. Okay, well, not too bad. Ground some paint off, ground that weld down. Now that Rolock disc on that grinder, it was wore down pretty good, so it was fighting for its life, but it didn't bog down, and I mean, it seemed to keep constant speed the whole time I was grinding on all that. So it'll work, and I'm pretty happy with that. So, well, so far so good. You know, saying bad for a little compressor. I was real hesitant to buy it at first, but you know, it surpassed my expectations for sure. So, you know, now in my next video, I will be actually doing some painting with it, so you can see some actual work get done with it if you're interested in that. So, y'all stay tuned, and we'll catch y'all next time.